Good morning and welcome to Willow's Green Permaculture. In today's video, I'm going to share with you all the plants, or many of the plants, that are really easy to grow from seed and also really easy to collect the seeds from so that you can have the seeds every year. I'll talk to you about the ones, some that are really easy, some that are a little easy, and I'll talk to you about some of them that can be easy if you just know one or two things about them. I'm also going to show you some of the plants that you can get seeds from by letting them overwinter and getting the plant to go to flower in its second year, because not all plants give you seeds in their first season. So I got a lot to share with you. It's going to be a lot of fun because there's nothing like having easy plants to grow, to feed you, and to add to your food forest. And that's another thing I'd like to quickly mention about the food forest. You know, looking at the garden, some people say, "Oh, it doesn't look like a forest." But some of you may not have seen some of our earlier videos where I show you what this place looked like in January of 2020 when we first started working on the project, when we first moved in. The area where the garden was just grass. And I'll show you a few pictures now, and a few pictures of the process. And so the trees and shrubs that are there, the native trees and the native shrubs that I use to attract the birds and attract the frogs and attract all the wildlife to help us with the gardening, well, they're all between 1 and 4 years old. So no, it doesn't look like a forest, but it's becoming one. And you know, the shrubs, some of them are right on the perimeter of the garden. And so it really is going to look like a forest. And of course, out back, we do have a forest that forest was dying when we moved in, and we've been restoring it. I'm going to show you a lot more videos about that. In fact, another one coming up is going to be when some of our food forest species are in flower, for when they'll eventually give fruit. But let's get on with the plants that you can easily grow from seed and that you can easily collect the seeds from, because they're the great ones to start with. So let's get started. So I thought I'd begin with one of the easiest plants to grow and one of the healthiest plants to have in your kitchen, and that is garlic. So this beautiful garlic, which is now almost at least 2.5 feet tall, probably about 80 centimeters tall. I planted last October, the middle of October. I think it was the 17th, and right now today we're the 17th of May, and this is going to be ready in about mid-July, so in about 2 more months. And garlic is one of the easiest plants to grow, because all you need to do is you start with a bulb. And now, not necessarily the kind you can get in a grocery store, but you can try. If you can get it at a nursery, it's probably better, or some organic garlic, or else some organic grocery store garlic. But if you can get at least one to grow, and it's, like I said, it's pretty easy, then you'll have garlic forever in 2 ways. When you harvest your garlic, you can use some of those garlic bulbs and divide them up into their their cloves, and then each clove will give you a new garlic. Or you will see, like this garlic, which is going to be ready in July. In June, it's going to start having what's called garlic scapes, and there are these spirally stems that grow, and then they have a sort of like a flower on the end. They flower, and then they're going to have these tiny little mini garlic bulblets in them. You can use those as seeds as well. And then if you just let a few of your garlics bloom, you'll have dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of those. And however, when you grow garlic from those, it takes a couple years before you actually get bulbs. But if you've got the space and the patience, and you already have garlic that you're harvesting anyways, you can expand garlic to all over the place, because garlic is great to have all over your garden, except beside peas and beans. They don't get along. So one of the easiest plants to grow. And for the best results, plant your garlic in the fall. let's say a couple weeks before freeze up. So depending on when that is for your region, a couple weeks before the ground freezes, and then it'll be ready the following summer. However, you can really plant it any time of the year, but you need to expect, if you've got a winter, you'll need to expect at least 10 months before it's ready. So if you plant it in the spring, it's probably not going to be ready until the following spring, but you might have some small bulbs ready in the fall if you plant it in the spring. But if you want it to bloom and so on, then leave it in the garden until the following year. So that's garlic. Let's go on to the next one. So I've spoken to you before about the walking onions, or the Egyptian onions, but I'm going to talk to you about them again today because once again they're one of the easiest things to grow. And so these ones, which were just the little bulbs last summer when I got them in August, I planted them here sometime in August last year, and I've been harvesting all spring. For the last month I've been harvesting from these, but now I'm going to stop because, as you can see, if you look here, I don't know if you can see that it's a little bit brighter green here, sort of almost a yellow. This is, so it's starting to go to flower. These are going to start growing those little mini onions at the end of the stems. Each plant will grow you about at least a dozen of those little bulbs. And then you can take them and you can plant them everywhere. Once again, just like the garlic, the onions, don't plant them near your peas or your beans because they don't get along. Another easy plant to grow and get seed from. And talking about garlic, here's some garlic that I don't bother to harvest, and I just let it regrow every year, and because it's a good companion plant. Good companion plant for different things. Maybe not for potatoes, but that's what this is right beside. Potatoes are another one of those easy plants. You plant it once and then you'll have it forever, because you're going to get a bunch of potatoes for each plant you get, and you just keep some of those potatoes through the winter, and then you can plant them the following year. Really, really easy. And so these are our first rows of potatoes. I still have to plant some more, but these are early potatoes. I decided to plant them early. And even if we get a frost, the frost might kill some of these leaves that are here, but the potatoes will come right back. And they're so easy to grow that often they will they'll overwinter in the soil and they'll regrow, and I'll show you that in a minute. The thing about potatoes, however, is you'll also find them, you'll see them flower and you'll see them grow a fruit, but a fruit that's inedible. It looks like a cherry tomato. Well, you can harvest that fruit. It's not edible, but you can get the little tiny seeds out of it, look just like tiny tomato seeds or ground cherry seeds. That's what they look like. You can grow a potato plant from that. And what's interesting about growing a potato plant from the potato fruit is you're getting a completely original variety. I'm going to show you some of those potatoes that have grown on their own. Here's a portion of our potato patch that I haven't planted yet, because I like to plant some a little later. I'm going to be planting some at the very, very end of May, just after the full moon. However, here in this area we haven't planted yet. There's a potato plant here, a potato plant here, another one here, another one here, another one over there, another one here, another one here. And all of these are just potatoes that I didn't notice last fall. I didn't harvest, maybe because they were too deep, and they survived the winter, and here they are regrowing. And they're surrounded by another easy plant to get seed from, mustard. Okay, this plant right here. The leaves taste just like mustard, because it is mustard, but you get the mustard, let's say the mustard condiment from the seeds. You take those seeds and you soak them in water for a few days, and then you add a little bit of vinegar and sugar, I think it is, and you mix that up and you get mustard. A very, very easy plant to grow. It grows readily from seed, and each plant will give you thousands of seeds. I'm still on the theme of potatoes because I wanted to show you this here. These are, you can barely see them because I've been picking these plants and picking them to keep them under control for the moment. These are some of my Three Sisters patches here, my Three Sisters mounds. In our second year here in 2021, so that's 3 years ago, I decided I wanted to plant potatoes here instead of the Three Sisters. And so I did, and we got potatoes. But then the year after, in 2022, we went back to the Three Sisters, like in 2020, and we've been doing the Three Sisters ever since. But every year we have potatoes that grow again here, and I never plant them, but they keep coming back, especially this one variety called the purple Peruvian potato, a purple potato, purple fingerling type potato. Really, really beautiful and very delicious. And so it keeps coming back, almost like a weed, you could say. However, something I'm going to try this year, because I want to make sure that my squash and pumpkins and corn and beans have enough space to grow. And so what I'm trying this year is every time I see these potatoes come up, I pick them. And I'm going to pick them. I'm going to continue picking these potato shoots until my squash and my corn and my beans are all nice and up and really tall and so on. And then I'll let the potatoes grow. We'll see what happens, because the thing is, the last couple of years, this area in particular, we didn't get as much squash and as much corn because the potatoes just took over. So, however, that's because I just let them grow. But you see, if I just pick these ends of these shoots growing, it's okay. The potato's still under there, and it's gonna keep growing. It's gonna keep sending up shoots. So I'm gonna see how long I can do this for and still get a potato harvest. I don't need a potato harvest here. What I want are my squash and my corn here, because this is it's the center of our garden, and the Three Sisters are kind of like one of the thematic centers of of what we do, you know, about companion planting and biodiversity and traditional and native knowledge and that kind of thing. And so that's why we like to have our Three Sisters in the center of our garden. But all this to say, potatoes are so easy to grow that they keep coming back every year. Even here, when we get winter, sometimes it's minus 30 degrees Celsius. It gets really, really cold here in the winter, and yet they survive, especially the purple Peruvians, but other varieties too. Potatoes real easy to grow. Other plant that's really easy to grow from seed, and also a plant you can get thousands and thousands of seeds from, is yarrow. Now, yarrow isn't a food plant, but it's a plant you can make tea from. It's medicinal, it's good for your immune system, and it's also good for the plants around it, all the plants around it. And this is gonna flower all through late June, July, August, September. It's in flower, and then when that flower dries, you can collect those seeds, and you'll have thousands of them. Very beautiful. It's kind of like a fern-like plant. Very, very pretty, and the deer don't like it too. So it's a good plant to have to keep deer away. And once again, it's also good for the health of the plants around it. A really good companion. Let's go on to the next plants. One of the absolute champions for plants that are easy to grow from seed are peas. Now I'm kind of hidden behind these trellises here. Peas it's best to give them something to climb on. But you can easily make them with fencing rolls or anything like that, and recycled wood. But the peas, they tolerate cold weather. You can plant them really early in the spring, and they will grow much faster than any of the other weeds and plants and so on that'll start growing next to them, as you can see right here. They just grow really, really fast. And the other benefit about peas is they feed the soil and they feed the other plants around them. Just don't plant them with anything in the onion or garlic family. Peas don't get along with onions, and they don't get along with garlic or anything in that family of plants. But otherwise, everything else is good to plant beside peas, because they're gonna get extra food from the peas. Another easy plant to grow from seed is calendula. And calendula is great because it will feed you. You can eat those flowers in a salad. You can make skin creams with calendula flowers, but it's beautiful to put the calendula flowers in a salad because they're so pretty. They're a little bit bitter, but they're really nice. And calendulas are a great companion plant for all your vegetables, because they will repel all the insects, because so many insects just don't like calendula, and the other animals too. The animals don't like the calendula as well because it's so bitter. And so they will keep the animals and the insects away from your plants. Just don't plant them too close to your plants, because they do get fairly big. And Once again, really easy to grow from seed and really easy to get the seeds from, because those flowers, each flower is going to give you a couple dozen seeds, or at least a dozen seeds. So once again, a plant that's easy to grow from seed and easy to get lots of seed from. You buy a seed packet once, you never have to buy it again. Here I've got some shelves inside my garden where I do some of the hardening off of my plants. Once again, in here we got a bunch of plants that are really easy to grow from seed and get lots of seed from. Here we've got broomcorn, which is a type of sorghum, and I'll show you some of our other sorghum a little bit later. But beautiful plant, and the seeds can be used for flour to make bread and cake with. Very easy to grow from seed, and needless to say, because it's the seed you're harvesting to eat, each plant will give you hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of seed, and they all sprout, they all grow. It's really great. Another grain, it's really good to have, really easy to grow from seed, is amaranth. Once again, the plant will give you thousands and thousands of seeds. The leaves are edible. The amaranth seeds are also edible. You can make those into a very high protein flour. And so very easy to collect those seeds from. And you've probably noticed that a lot of my plants are in pots. And I do this because even though they don't necessarily need to be planted indoors, because a lot of them, they tolerate the cold, but I still like to plant them in pots ahead of time so I can make sure that I give them the space they need when it's time to plant. Because you see, when it's time to transplant, I can prepare an area of the garden, make sure they have all the space and there are no more weeds. I put those in, and then they're already going to be way ahead of the weeds. They're going to grow real fast, and the weeds aren't going to be able to fill the space between them, because they're going to shade them out. So that's a really a good thing to know. You know, if you've got space outside to plant things in pots, then go right ahead and do it. Another one that I find that is easy to plant from seed when you do it in pots is beets. I find I get more success growing beets in pots than I do direct sowing them. You can direct sow them, but I find that they do better when I put them in pots ahead of time and then transplant them, because once again, it's all about spacing. I can give them the amount of space, especially because beets are just a very polite plant, and if they feel other plants growing close to them, then they just stay small. They just enjoy life small. They don't grow big, so you got to give them the space they need to be able to grow properly. Now, you can collect beet seeds, and I got some last year. But what you have to do is you have to choose some beets that you're not going to harvest and let them overwinter, and kind of protect them as well. Put mulch on them and so on, so that they survive the winter, and then the following spring they will flower and they will give you seed, and they'll give you hundreds of seeds in a single plant. Let's go on to the next plants. So earlier I showed you the broomcorn. Well, now here's some of the syrup sorghum. Probably one of the easiest plants ever to grow from seed, and boy does it ever feed you. Probably the best grain to grow. When we make our bread and our cake and so on, we're using 50% of the flour or close to that, is coming from sorghum grain. And also the syrup sorghum gives you sugar cane. And of course each plant gives you thousands of seeds. So really easy to harvest seed from. And as you can see, all the seeds germinate. You know, in each one of these cells, these are pots with six cells in them. Each cell has got like about 6 or 7 plants in it. Every single seed I put in there, I always put in a few extras. Every single seed sprouted. And because the root system is so strong, I'm going to be able to pull these cells apart and divide them into 2 and get double the plants from them. They don't mind growing close together, and I don't mind pulling these apart because they're just so strong. It's not going to harm them, damage them, or anything. And sorghum is also a great plant to have if you're trying to remediate the soil, if you're trying to stabilize the soil, if you have erosion, because because you know, when I harvest the sorghum, I make sure I leave a bit of the stem and the roots in the ground, and I never remove them because they just stabilize the soil. It's really, really great. So another great one to have to feed you. Easy to collect the seeds, easy to grow them. Another one here, this is millet. A little bit more of a slow grower, but it gives you hundreds of seeds per plant, and really easy to grow, really to collect the seeds, easy to collect the seeds from, and it will feed you. And another one, once again in the grass family, because all this stuff is grass: millet, sorghum, broomcorn, rice. They're all types of grass. You can see down here, this is corn. And you can see some of the red stalked corn. It's one of my favorites. It's so beautiful. The leaves around the corn husks they're red too. Very, very beautiful. So of course, on a corn cob, every one of those kernels is a seed. And so corn is really easy to plant, to grow it, and it grows very, very quickly. Of all these plants, of all the grasses, corn grows the most quickly. I've started these in pots because I want the corn to have a head start on the beans and the squash, which I always plant later. But in this case, I want to have them, for my demo garden, I want them to have a real head start. So I planted these ahead of time. But they're really, really easy to grow. Corn, millet, sorghum. Let's go on to the next plant. So I showed you this plant in an earlier video, and here it is now going to flower. And these flowers are all going to give seed. This is kale. Kale that we planted here last year. Planted it in pots, transplanted it here, and then I put, during the winter time, I put a nice thick layer of leaves at the base of the plants, really, really thick layer of leaves. And so they survived the winter, and here they are. They started growing again in the spring. And kale, like the whole mustard family, kale, broccoli, cabbage, and cauliflower, survives to its second year. And if it can survive to its second year here in Ontario, where we here in our 5B climate zone, where we can have -30 in the winter, if it can survive those winters, then it can survive you know, in zone 6 and zone 7 and so on. And so in its second year, it'll give you seed, and each plant will give you potentially hundreds of seeds. So once again, an easy plant to grow from seed, because kale grows really fast from seed. I still like to put it in little pots. It doesn't have to be sown indoors. You can sow it outdoors, but I put it in pots, and that way I can give it the space it needs when it's ready to transplant. So another plant that's easy to grow from seed and easy to collect seeds from if it survives to the second year. Let's go on to the next plant. Barley. Really easy to grow from seed, and if you get what's called a hull-less barley, it's so easy to thresh and so on because it just falls right out of the hull. And so you get, of course, tons of seed because that's what you're harvesting, and it's really easy to grow from seed. This patch of barley right here, all I did was I took a large handful of seed. I raked the area down, got rid of the weeds, and I just broadcast the seed on top. That means I just threw it on top, and I took the rake and I raked it again. And any seed that was still exposed after I raked, I took a bit of compost and I covered that seed up to make sure it was just lightly covered up with soil, and it's all grown. And it really doesn't mind growing close. Some plants like to be crowded. The grass family, of course, likes to be crowded. They do well even when they're all crowded together. Here, we've got a plant, curly dock. It gives a ton of seed that you can use, that you can grind into flour, and you can collect, and you can take that seed and you can kind of throw it all over the place in your yard or whatever, because it's a great plant to have around for bee stings and or if you touch stinging nettle and that kind of thing, because you just take a leaf and you just rub it on the sting like that until you can see some of the, your skin turns a bit green because the juice is coming out, and that'll take away the sting. This here, if you can see the red stems, this is Swiss chard. that was growing here last year. Now, Swiss chard is in the same family as beets. It's basically a beet that doesn't actually grow the bulb. But the leaves look just like beet leaves, and that's why beet leaves you can eat as a green. You can eat them just like you would eat Swiss chard, because they're essentially the same thing. So this Swiss chard was growing here last year, and it survived the winter. So this plant here, that's in its second year, well, at some point in the season, it's gonna go to flower, and it's gonna give us a lot of seeds. So there's another one you can get seeds from easily enough. Once again, it's because I put a thick layer of leaves here in the fall to protect the plants. Now, when I planted this barley, I raked the leaves off, and I just put them over there because I wanted to broadcast the barley seed, and I didn't want all sorts of leaves because they would have had a rougher time sprouting through the leaves. I removed the leaves, I put them in another part of the garden where I could use them as mulch, and but those leaves protected the plant, and they protected the soil and so on. And so it survived the winter, and we're going to get seeds from it. Let's go on to the next plant. So this is our compost garden, where in a recent video you saw me transplanting the onions here. But I thought I'd stop here because as it's a compost garden, there's a lot of seed that goes into it in the winter, you know, from the kitchen. And they just grow all on their own. And we have a whole bunch of pumpkin or squash growing. I didn't plant these. These are just because, you know, when let's say we might have had a squash that ripened too quickly, that wasn't usable in the kitchen or something, well, then we would have put it in the compost, and now it's growing. Also, I mentioned potatoes. I pulled out a bunch of potatoes here because I don't want them growing with the onions. They don't like each other. And there's one right over here. There's one growing right here. So now I pulled most of them out because I want to give the space to the onions, and then between the onions I'm going to have peppers. So I'm probably going to be either pulling these out and putting them back into the compost, the squash here, or I might try and transplant them. Let's go on to the next plant. Here we are in our greenhouse. It's mid-May 2024, and this is our first year gardening with a permanent greenhouse, one that doesn't have to be taken down in the winter. And prior to this year, it's only been since 2021 that I've actually used, you know, those little plastic ones that you take down in the fall and put away and put back up in the spring after the snow and so on. Prior to that, and for the last 30 years, since I started gardening in 1990, I never had greenhouses or that sort of thing. So if I needed to plant stuff indoors, it was inside on a windowsill or in a sunny room or in a room with light. And that's it. And so when I talk about plants that are easy to grow, it's because I learned that in conditions without having things like greenhouses. And so I'd like to show you a few of the plants that we have in here. You know, here we have peppers and tomatoes, which both need heat. And so now they're plants that I also grew without the greenhouse, but I had to start them indoors. And so long as you can give them indoors, you can give peppers and tomatoes a sunny window, preferably south facing, or at the very least east or west facing. And so long as you keep your house at you know, about 20 degrees Celsius, and that should be enough heat to let them germinate. Once they germinate, then they grow fairly well if they have enough light. And apart from that, they're fairly easy to grow. And once they've started growing, and you transplant them into the garden, they're really fast growers, especially tomatoes. But for all of the plants that I've spoken about planting them in pots first and transplanting them to help you make sure that you give them enough space. What you have to remember though is when you transplant any potted plant, for the first week, it's going to look like nothing's happening. So you're going to think, oh, I didn't do a good job. It's not growing. It's not doing anything. And you're going to be worried about it. You're going to think you have to water it more. And then if you water it too much, then you can water it too much. Now, it's important to water it when you transplant it and make sure that the soil doesn't completely dry, but you have to remember that when you transplant any plant, for five to 7 days at the very least, the plant's not going to be doing anything visible, because what it's going to be working on is reestablishing its roots, because you've transplanted it. So when you transplant it, the very edges of the roots are going to be damaged, the tiny parts of the roots that you can't even see, and those are the ones that are really going for everything. And so it's rebuilding its roots in that first 5 to 7 days, and so it's not going to grow. But then after that, that's when it's going to start growing. Maximum it could take 2 weeks, but then after that it just jumps. And so that's why, but it's good, because 2 weeks, 1 to 2 weeks is a lot shorter than putting a seed in the ground. And while you're waiting for that seed to germinate, might take 2 weeks, a week to 2 weeks to germinate, and then another few weeks to get to this size. And then by that time, all the other weeds have taken over, so you're doing too much weeding. So even a plant like a tomato is, because I pulled this out of the flat, I'm going to give it a little bit of water. Even a plant like a tomato, which requires heat, is fairly easy to grow from seed, and of course you get tons of seed. And I find that the seeds that I collect do better than the bought seeds, likely because they're guaranteed that they're from the previous season, whereas bought seeds, it's not always the case. Of course, there are plants I've spoken to you about, for instance, peas that grow so fast, and other plants that grow really fast from seed. I'm going to show you right now here in the greenhouse. Here's one. This is watermelon. Grows fast from seed, and so I like to start them in pots, because they like the heat, and as you can see, these are the jam watermelons, or the winter watermelons, like I like to call them. I still have some in the house from that I harvested in September of 2022. That's more than a year and a half ago. There's some more watermelon, and what's interesting about watermelon is they'll often mix up with each other. And for instance, in here we've got some golden and some sort of salmony colored watermelon, but I've never bought seeds of that color flesh watermelon, but it's just that they mixed with the other ones and they created these seeds. And they were so sweet, the sweetest watermelons I've ever tasted, with the golden flesh and that pinkish flesh as well, pinkish golden flesh. In the same family as the watermelon, the same large family, of course, are the squash. These are some Queensland blue squash. They grow really fast from seed. Now, so fast from seed that I actually direct sow them. But I like to keep some backups, especially of the Queensland blue, because these are really popular with the cucumber beetles. And I don't do anything for any of the insects in the garden. I just let the frogs and the birds and the predatory insects take care of them. And sometimes they get the upper hand. But I get so many seeds that, I can do backups. I can plant tons of them in the garden, and the cucumber beetles will eat some, and others they'll leave them alone. Now the thing with squash, though, is it readily mixes with other squash family plants, and so the seeds won't always necessarily give you exactly the same squash unless you completely isolate it. If you've got your absolutely favorite squash, then isolate it from all the others. Don't let the flowers be exposed to flowers of others where the bees will exchange the pollen. However, there are some types like butternut. Butternut is a completely different type of squash, and it won't readily won't as easily mix with the others. I found that my butternut, my crookneck butternut, those types of squash, they come true very often. But another one that seems to come true quite nicely is the Queensland blue, which is really nice. I've now for 2 years in a row I've gotten seed that gave me the exact same pumpkin again. Here I've mixed with this is I've also got some more broomcorn in here. Got some loofah here. That's in the same family, of course, as squash. That I'm gonna try and isolate from the squash, because I don't want it mixing with the squash, because you can't eat loofah, and so I don't want it mixing with the squash and making some bizarre hybrids. but it's another one that seems to grow pretty easily from seed, but it's my first time growing it, so we'll see how that goes. Over in this corner, all through here, I've got 40 pots of watermelon in here. I've got cantaloupe up in here, some different types of melons and cantaloupe, and more watermelon here. And you see, because watermelon just gives you so many seeds that I got a ton of them, and so we're going to be able to get a lot of watermelon. It's just a question of finding space in the garden. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it, but it's doing really well. It's something that when it has the right amount of heat, it grows quickly. I'll put it outside once it's warm enough. I'm going to be transplanting these in June when it's nice and warm outside, and then no risk of frost or anything like that. And yet another plant that easy to grow from seed, easy to collect seeds from, and also the seeds grow true. They do mix with each other, but so far all of the mixes, all of the, let's say, the natural hybrids that they've created have all been delicious. Here is a bunch of cucumber. Cucumber is another plant that grows easily from seed. It grows fairly quickly from seed, and you can get a lot of seeds out of a single cucumber. However, if you want to get cucumber seeds, what you have to do is you got to let that cucumber, and if possible, let it do it on the vine, let that cucumber get completely ripe. And what I mean by ripe is the cucumber will become completely yellow, maybe even orange. Once it's completely yellow or orange, you can harvest the seeds out of it and dry them, and it'll give you tons and tons and tons of seeds. Here we got some birdhouse gourd seedlings. Now I didn't get that many viable seeds from that birdhouse gourd that I made into a birdhouse in that video last month. There are 16 cells here that I put 2 seeds in each cell, and so that's 32 seeds, but I only got 9 sprouts, so that's not even a third. And I think it's because my season just wasn't long enough that year. I did manage to harvest that gourd that you saw when it was pretty well ripe, but I guess it wasn't completely ripe, and so not all the seeds were viable. So that one maybe is a bit more of a challenge. Here we got some basil. It's got nice warm conditions. It grows quickly and it grows quite easily. And once again, I like to put it in pots so I can give it its space, because it's one of those polite plants that's going to let other plants have the space that is close to it, and it just contents itself staying small and carrying out its life small. So give it its space so that it can grow big for you. And I've got a video about how you can harvest your basil to get more of it. Check that one out. Here's some more basil. I want lots of basil because I'm going to use my basil to protect my tomatoes. Tomatoes which grow 10 times bigger or 20 times bigger than basil, but it's the basil that's going to protect those tomatoes from different issues, which is really nice. Let's go on to the next plant. And last, but certainly not least, are the beans. Probably, hands down, the easiest plant to grow from seed and to collect seeds from. Give you abundance, give you protein all year long. These 2 jars here are, we're mid-May. We're going to start getting green beans in July. So we're 2 months away from getting some new beans, and we still have these 2 plus 2 other half jars like this of beans from last year, plus all the beans I kept to either sow in the garden or to use for different educational projects. For eating in the kitchen, I think it was about 16 or 18 of these jars we got last year. We plant the beans everywhere, and the reason why I don't have any plants to show you is because they grow so fast that I don't bother ever planting them in pots. And in fact, beans don't really like to be transplanted, so I just plant them anywhere. You can practically plant them in grass, making a little hole in the grass and adding a bit of soil there, and they'll grow right through the grass. And we plant them absolutely everywhere because they will feed the soil, they'll feed the other plants. And what we do is we start harvesting them in July. We start harvesting the green beans right up until the end of August. And then at the end of August, we stop harvesting the green beans so that they can ripen and make us some beans, some hard beans, some cooking beans to go through the winter. So really wonderful. And I just love the variety they give. And they make new varieties every year. They readily mix with each other. Like look at these 2 jars. These are from 2 different areas of the garden. We plant these inside and outside the garden. We plant them pretty well everywhere because they're so easy, so that the deer can have them too. And we just throw them different spots. The easiest, if you wanted to choose one plant to start with, we'll start with beans because they're the easiest. But the thing you have to know about beans is they're vulnerable to frost. And that's the other reason why I haven't put them in the garden yet. I don't plant these until the very, very end of May here. Oh, and one last note. I was talking to you about sorghum. Well, this is the amount of seed you get from 1, maybe maximum 2 plants of sorghum. So it gives you lots and lots of seed for making flour with. So, I hope you liked the video. I hope you found it useful. And if you did find it useful, then share it with your friends. And if you haven't done so yet, then subscribe and support the channel. Just from subscribing, nothing, you don't really have to do anything else. And you can watch some more of our videos. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.